Everyone, welcome back to the channel. The sirens started before dawn, bouncing off the glass towers of lower Chicago like trapped ghosts. Officer Daniel Rowe had seen crime scenes before, but not like this. The street was cordoned off with yellow tape, rain pooling over the chalk outlines, and the air smelled like iron and burnt oil. A black SUV sat idling at the curb, bullet holes riddled through the windshield. The driver slumped forward. The name on the ID was Marcus Vance, a mid-level accountant for a construction firm tied to multiple city contracts. To most people, he was forgettable, a man with clean shirts and predictable habits. But Daniel knew better. He'd seen Vance's name appear in quiet whispers during 3 separate corruption probes that had all ended in sudden withdrawals or lack of evidence. Something about this one was different. There was no forced entry, no robbery, no chaos. Just 3 clean shots, center mass, at point-blank range. Whoever did this wasn't a mugger. This was surgical. Detective Elise Navarro joined Daniel under the flickering streetlight. She didn't say much, just nodded toward the SUV. "Execution," she said. "Looks that way." "You think he talked?" Daniel watched the blood run into the gutter like it was escaping the city itself. Maybe, or maybe someone thought he might. They found a phone on the passenger seat, wiped clean. Not stolen, just reset. In the trunk, a torn envelope with half a legal document inside. The visible header read, "Federal Subpoena, Financial Disclosure." Elise exhaled. So he was going to testify. That's when Daniel's stomach turned. He'd seen this pattern before. Quiet men who suddenly grow consciences, start cooperating, and end up dead before the trial date hits the calendar. They dug deeper. Marcus Vance worked for Dalmore Holdings, a firm that handled infrastructure investments. A fancy way of saying city projects that always came in over budget. The company had ties to a state senator's re-election campaign, a few police union contracts, and a shell charity registered to an untraceable trust. 2 days later, while combing through Vance's apartment, Daniel found something the killer had missed, a USB drive hidden in a coffee tin. When they plugged it in, the drive contained nothing but a series of encrypted files labeled with months: Jan, Feb, Mar. The last one, Jules, opened to a spreadsheet listing dozens of small payments, each routed through different firms, all ending in the same offshore bank. One of the recipients was listed as Navarro Consulting LLC. Elise froze. "That's not mine." Daniel looked at her. She was pale, angry, scared, but not surprised. "You have an explanation?" She nodded slowly. "My ex, 3 years ago. He used my name to open a consultancy. I shut it down when I found out. I didn't know he was still using it." Daniel wasn't sure whether to believe her. Trust in this line of work was currency. You spend it wrong, and you go broke fast. They pulled traffic cam footage from the night of the murder. The SUV had left Dalmore's downtown garage at 9:43 p.m. A second car, a silver Charger, trailed it for 11 blocks. The plate came back clean. Rental, paid in cash. Daniel traced the rental back to a storage facility in Cicero. Inside one of the units, they found another car, burned out but not entirely destroyed. In the ash of the back seat lay a melted phone battery and the remnants of latex gloves. Whoever did this had cleaned up carefully, but not perfectly. Elise's phone buzzed while they were cataloging the evidence. It was an unlisted number. She answered and froze. A man's voice, calm, educated. "Detective Navarro, you're looking in the wrong place. Marcus wasn't killed for what he knew. He was killed for what he was about to send. You've still got it, don't you?" The call cut off. They traced it. No signal origin. Just like that, it vanished. Daniel looked at her. "He knows we found the drive." Elise pocketed her phone. "Then we don't have much time." They took the drive to a federal contact Daniel trusted, Special Agent Tomas Reed, a cybercrimes expert. He decrypted part of the data. It revealed something worse than bribery, a list of covert payments to current law enforcement officers, over 30 of them. Daniel scrolled through the names and felt his throat go dry. One of them was his commanding officer. Reed looked at both detectives. "You need to be careful. If half these names are real, You can't trust anyone inside your department. That night, Daniel went home to his small South Side apartment and sat in the dark. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere near the river. He checked his phone. No new messages. Then he saw it. A small red dot glowing faintly against his window. A laser sight. He dove to the floor as glass shattered. Bullets tore through the blinds. By the time backup arrived, the shooter was gone. They recovered one shell casing from the alley behind his building. Same caliber, same markings as the ones from Marcus Vance's scene. Whoever had killed Vance was now coming for them. Elise met Daniel at the precinct, face tight. This isn't just about Dalmore. Vance was a pawn. The real money ass moving through a fund that ties straight into the mayor's re-election pack. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. And if we push too hard, they'll bury us. Elise looked up at him, fire in her eyes. Then we stop asking for permission. They went off the grid. No calls, no department servers. They used burner phones, cash-only motels, and Reed's secure laptop to cross-reference offshore accounts. They found another name, Jonas Callan, a political consultant with rumored ties to organized crime and logistical management for high-profile campaigns. Reed traced a payment from Dalmore Holdings to one of Callan's dummy firms. The timestamp matched the night before Marcus was killed. Daniel leaned back. He ordered the hit. Elise nodded. And if we're right, Callan has cops on payroll to keep it quiet. By morning, a news headline hit every local feed. Detectives Navarro and Rowe under investigation for evidence tampering. Someone inside had flipped the narrative. They were now officially fugitives in their own department. Daniel stared at the article on his phone, rain tapping against the windshield of their unmarked car. They're cleaning house. Elise loaded her gun. Then let's get dirty first. They had one last lead, a warehouse near the river, listed as a campaign storage site. Surveillance from 2 weeks prior showed Marcus Vance entering and leaving the building after hours. It was the last place he'd been seen alive before his SUV turned up on West Adams. They parked 3 blocks away, approached on foot. The air smelled like rust and salt. Inside the warehouse, dim lights, boxes stacked high, and the hum of servers in a back room. Elise broke the lock. Inside the office, a laptop screen glowed with an open message. If you're reading this, it means you didn't listen. A voice came from behind them, calm, confident. You two have caused me a lot of problems. Jonas Callan stepped out of the shadows, gun drawn. And just like that, the story shifted from corruption to survival. Jonas Callan's voice cut through the dark like a calm sermon. He didn't raise the gun right away. He didn't have to. Confidence was its own weapon. Daniel froze near the doorway, one hand hovering near his holster. Elise took half a step back, her breath steady but shallow. You two have been digging in places you shouldn't, Callan said, moving closer. Marcus was a liability. You're about to become one. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the servers humming behind Callan, black towers filled with blinking drives. So this is where you keep your real campaign data? Callan smirked. Data, leverage, same thing these days. Elise shifted slightly, keeping her right hand low. You think you'll walk out of here? Callan tilted his head. Detective, I own the people who write the reports. By morning, you'll be listed as suspects in a federal evidence theft. Nobody will care what happens here. That was when Daniel moved. A single flash, a sound like thunder cracking metal, and Callan stumbled backward, the gun skidding across the floor. Daniel had fired first, not to kill, but to break control. Elise kicked Callan's weapon away and tackled him against the server rack. Sparks flew as circuits broke. Daniel cuffed him, heart hammering. You're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction, and murder. Callan laughed, low and cold. You think that matters? You just destroyed federal evidence. That's the only headline they'll print. The smell of ozone filled the room. Elise looked around. Some of the servers were burning. We need to pull the drives, she shouted. Daniel yanked 1, 2, 3. Half melted, but maybe salvageable. Callan stopped laughing long enough to whisper, You'll never prove it. Every file on that drive ties your badge to my accounts. You're part of it now. Outside, sirens echoed closer. Too fast. Too soon. Daniel looked through the broken window and saw flashing lights. Police units, unmarked. But they weren't their people. The timing was too perfect. Elise whispered, "They're here for him." Daniel nodded. "And to clean us up." They dragged Callan through the back corridor, the servers still smoking. A side door opened into a dockyard, wind slicing cold off the river. Daniel spotted an old delivery van, keys still in the ignition. Luck or setup, he couldn't tell. They shoved Callan in the back and peeled out just as the first squad cars screeched into the front lot. Gunfire followed them into the night. They ditched the van 6 blocks away and ran on foot, cutting through alleys until their lungs burned. Daniel pressed against a brick wall, checking his arm, grazed by a bullet. Elise's hair was wet with rain and sweat, eyes bright with adrenaline. "What now?" she asked. Daniel held up the half-burned drive. "Now we make this public." They found Reed in an abandoned subway control office beneath the loop, a place few people remembered still existed. He connected the drive to his offline rig and began patching together fragments. File names flickered across the screen. Campaign funds, allocations, contract ledgers, internal transfers. Reed frowned. "There's enough here to blow up 3 elections, but it's messy. The timestamps are rigged. We need a clean chain to make it admissible." Elise paced. "So we can't use it." Daniel shook his head. "Not yet, but we can leak it." Reed hesitated. "That'll make you fugitives for real." Daniel's voice was quiet. "We already are." They uploaded everything to 3 encrypted channels. One to a journalist at the Tribune, one to a federal whistleblower archive, and one to an international data transparency group. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Once the files were mirrored, no one could erase them all. Minutes later, Reed's laptop pinged, a live feed from a news desk. Headline: "Whistleblower Files. Expose Deep Corruption in City Contracts." Elise slumped against the wall, exhausted. "We did it." Daniel looked at her. "For now." A low groan came from behind them. Callan, still zip-tied, bleeding but alive. "You think the city changes because of this?" he muttered. "You just created a vacuum. The next man in line will be worse." Daniel stared at him. "Maybe, but he'll know someone's watching." Reed turned from the monitor. "You two should disappear. Feds are already spinning this like a rogue operation." Elise nodded. "We've got what we need." They drove east, following the lakefront until the city lights faded in the mirror. At a rest stop near Gary, Indiana, Daniel parked beneath a broken street lamp. The storm had cleared. Only silence remained. He handed Elise a burner phone. "Once this goes national, they'll come for everyone connected. You should go dark. New name, new city." Elise looked at him for a long moment. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "Someone has to testify. I'll buy you time." She reached out, gripped his hand. "Don't be a hero. Heroes get written off as collateral." He laughed once. "I'm not a hero, just tired of pretending we don't see the rot." Before dawn, Elise was gone. Daniel watched her car disappear down the highway, the USB drive safely hidden in her jacket. Then he turned his own car back toward the city. By mid-morning, the headlines were everywhere. The mayor denied involvement. The senator welcomed a full investigation. Warrants flew across departments like shrapnel. Anonymous sources confirmed that 2 detectives had gone missing after uncovering sensitive data. 3 days later, a video surfaced on a public channel. Daniel Rowe, seated in a dim room, looked straight into the camera. "My name is Officer Daniel Rowe. If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it back. What we found isn't just corruption, it's complicity. The people you trust to protect you are the ones who sold the system. Don't forget the names. Don't let this story die." The clip went viral within hours. The public called him a whistleblower, a traitor, a martyr, depending on which network you watched. But no one saw him again. Weeks passed. The investigation gutted the department, toppled campaigns, and forced resignations. And then, quietly, things went back to normal. Except one story kept resurfacing. A woman under a new name was spotted in a small coastal town in Maine. She worked nights at a local diner. wore gloves to hide a faint scar on her hand, and carried an old worn flash drive on a chain around her neck. Some nights she'd step outside after closing, look up at the quiet sky, and whisper, "You kept your promise, Danny." And somewhere far away, in the buried archives of a forgotten server, the ledger still blinked alive, waiting for the next person brave enough to open it.